Hello and welcome back, everyone. We're thrilled to have you join us as we dive into another fascinating episode. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with our latest explorations. For our returning viewers, thank you for your continued support. Let's get right into today's adventure. Narrator. So saying, glorious Hector hastened forth from the gates, and with him went his brother Alexander, and in their hearts were both eager for war and battle. And as a god giveth to longing seamen a fair wind when they have grown weary of beating the sea with polished oars of fir, and with weariness are their limbs fordone, even so appeared these twain to the longing Trojans. Narrator. Then the one of them slew the son of King Aretheus, Menestheus, that dwelt in Arna, who was born of the maceman Arethus and ox-eyed Philomedusa, and Hector with his sharp spear smote Aeneas on the neck beneath the well-wrought helmet of bronze, and loosed his limbs. And Glaucus, son of Hippolochus, leader of the Lycians, made a cast with his spear in the fierce conflict at Iphinus, son of Dexios, as he sprang upon his car behind his swift mares, and smote him upon the shoulder. So he fell from his chariot to the ground, and his limbs were loosed. Narrator. But when the goddess, flashing-eyed Athene, was ware of them as they were slaying the Argives in the fierce conflict, she went darting down from the peaks of Olympus to sacred Ilios. And Apollo sped forth to meet her, for he looked down from out of Pergamus and beheld her, and was fain to have victory for the Trojans. So the twain met one with the other by the oak tree. Apollo. Wherefore art thou again come thus eagerly from Olympus, thou daughter of great Zeus, and why hath thy proud spirit sent thee? Is it that thou mayest give to the Danaans victory to turn the tide of battle, seeing thou hast no pity for the Trojans that perish? But if thou wouldst in any wise hearken unto me, and so would it be better far, let us now stay the war and fighting for this day. Hereafter shall they fight again, until they win the goal of Ilios, since thus it seemeth good to the hearts of you, immortal goddesses, to lay waste this city. Athene. So be it, thou god that workest afar. With this in mind am I myself come from Olympus to the midst of Trojans and Achaeans. But come, how art thou minded to stay the battle of the warriors? Apollo. Let us rouse the valiant spirit of horse-taming Hector, in hope that he may challenge someone of the Danaans in single fight to do battle with him man to man in dread combat. So shall the bronze-greaved Achaeans have indignation and rouse someone to do battle in single combat against goodly Hector. Narrator. So he spake, and the goddess, flashing-eyed Athene, failed not to hearken. And Helenus, the dear son of Priam, understood in spirit this plan that had found pleasure with the gods in council. And he came and stood by Hector's side, and spake to him, saying, Helenus, Hector, son of Priam, peer of Zeus in council, wouldst thou now in any wise hearken unto me? For I am thy brother. Make the Trojans to sit down, and all the Achaeans, and do thou challenge whoso is best of the Achaeans to do battle with thee man to man in dread combat. Not yet is it thy fate to die and meet thy doom, for thus have I heard the voice of the gods that are for ever. Narrator. So spake he, and Hector rejoiced greatly when he heard his words, and he went into the midst and kept back the battalions of the Trojans with his spear grasped by the middle, and they all sate them down, and Agamemnon made the well-greaved Achaeans to sit. And Athene and Apollo of the silver bow, in the likeness of vultures, sate them upon the lofty oak of Father Zeus, that beareth the aegis, rejoicing in the warriors. And the ranks of these sat close, bristling with shields and helms and spears. Even as there is spread over the face of the deep the ripple of the west wind, that is newly risen, and the deep groweth black beneath it, so sat the ranks of the Achaeans and Trojans in the plain. Hector. Hear me, ye Trojans and well-greaved Achaeans, that I may speak what the heart in my breast biddeth me. Our oaths the son of Cronos, throned on high, brought not to fulfilment, but with ill intent ordaineth a time for both hosts, until either ye take well-walled Troy or yourselves be vanquished beside your seafaring ships. With you are the chieftains of the whole host of the Achaeans. Of these let now that man whose heart soever biddeth him fight with me come hither from among you all to be your champion against goodly Hector. And thus do I declare my word, and be Zeus our witness thereto. If so be he shall slay me with the long-edged bronze, let him spoil me of my armour and bear it to the hollow ships. but my body let him give back to my home, that the Trojans and the Trojan wives may give me my due meed of fire in my death. But if so be I slay him, and Apollo give me glory, I will spoil him of his armour, and bear it to sacred Ilios, and hang it upon the temple of Apollo, the god that smiteth afar. But his corpse will I render back to the well-benched ships, that the long-haired Achaeans may give him burial, and heap up for him a barrow by the wide Hellespont. And someone shall some day say even of men that are yet to be, as he saileth in his many-benched ship over the wine-dark sea, this is a barrow of a man that died in olden days, whom on a time in the midst of his prowess glorious Hector slew. So shall some man say, and my glory shall never die. Narrator. So spake he, and they all became hushed in silence. Shame had they to deny him, but they feared to meet him. Howbeit at length Menelaus arose among them and spake, chiding them with words of reviling, and deeply did he groan at heart. Menelaus. Ah me, ye braggarts, ye women of Achaea, men no more! Surely shall this be a disgrace dread and dire, if no man of the Danaans shall now go to meet Hector. Nay, may ye one and all turn to earth and water, ye that sit there, each man with no heart in him, utterly inglorious. Against this man will I myself arm me, but from on high are the issues of victory holden of the immortal gods. Narrator. So spake he, and did on his fair armour. And now, Menelaus, would the end of life have appeared for thee at the hands of Hector, seeing he was mightier far, had not the kings of the Achaeans sprung up and laid hold of thee? And Atreus' son himself, wide-ruling Agamemnon, caught him by the right hand, and spake to him, saying, Agamemnon, thou art mad, Menelaus, nurtured of Zeus, and this thy madness beseemeth thee not. Hold back, for all thy grief, and be not minded in rivalry to fight with one better than thou, even with Hector, son of Priam, of whom others besides thee are adread. Even Achilles shuddereth to meet this man in battle, where men win glory. And he is better far than thou. Nay, go thou for this present, and sit thee amid the company of thy fellows. Against this man shall the Achaeans raise up another champion. Fearless though he be, and insatiate of battle, methinks he will be glad to bend his knees in rest, if so be he escape from the fury of war and the dread conflict. Narrator. So spake the warrior, and turned his brother's mind, for he counselled aright, and Menelaus obeyed. Then with gladness his squires took his armour from his shoulders, and Nestor rose up and spake amid the Argives. Nestor, fie upon you, in good sooth is great grief come upon the land of Achaea. Verily aloud would old Peleus groan, the driver of chariots, goodly counsellor and orator of the Myrmidons, who on a time questioned me in his own house, and rejoiced greatly as he asked of the lineage and birth of all the Argives. If he were to hear that these were now all cowering before Hector, then would he lift up his hands to the immortals in instant prayer that his soul might depart from his limbs into the house of Hades. I would, O Father Zeus and Athene and Apollo, that I were young as when beside swift-flowing Celadon the Pylians and Arcadians that rage with spears gathered together and fought beneath the walls of fire about the streams of Iardanus. On their side stood forth Ereuthalion as champion, a godlike man, bearing upon his shoulders the armour of King Areithous, goodly Areithous that men and fair-girdled women were wont to call the Mace Man, for that he fought not with bow or long spear, but with a mace of iron brake the battalions. Him Lycurgus slew by guile and nowise by might, in a narrow way, where his mace of iron saved him not from destruction. For ere that might be, Lycurgus came upon him at unawares, and pierced him through the middle with his spear, and backward was he hurled upon the earth, and Lycurgus despoiled him of the armour that brazen Ares had given him. This armour he thereafter wore himself amid the turmoil of Ares. But when Lycurgus grew old within his halls, he gave it to Ereuthalion, his dear squire, to wear. And wearing this armour, did Ereuthalion challenge all the bravest, but they trembled sore and were afraid, nor had any man courage to abide him. But me did my enduring heart set on to battle with him in my hardihood, though in years I was youngest of all. So fought I with him, and Athene gave me glory. The tallest was he, and the strongest man that ever I slew. As a huge sprawling bulk he lay stretched this way and that. Would I were now as young and my strength as firm, then should Hector of the flashing helm soon find one to face him. Whereas ye that are chieftains of the whole host of the Achaeans, even ye are not minded with a ready heart to meet Hector face to face. Narrator. So the old man chid them, and there stood up 9 in all. Up sprang far the first, the king of men, Agamemnon, and after him Tydeus' son, mighty Diomedes, and after them the Iantes, clothed in furious valour, and after them Idomeneus, and Idomeneus' comrade Meriones, the peer of Enyalius, slayer of men, and after them Eurypylus, the glorious son of Euaemon, and up sprang Thoas, son of Andremon, and goodly Odysseus. All these were minded to do battle with goodly Hector. Narrator. Then among them spake again the horseman Nestor of Gerenia. Nestor, cast ye the lot now from the first unto the last for him who so shall be chosen. For he shall verily profit the well-grieved Achaeans, and himself in his own soul shall profit withal, if so be he escape from the fury of war and the dread conflict. Narrator. So said he, and they marked each man his lot, and cast them in the helmet of Agamemnon, son of Atreus, and the host made prayer, and lifted up their hands to the gods. And thus would one say with a lance up to the broad heaven, Father Zeus, grant that the lot fall of Aias or the son of Tydeus, or else on the king himself of Mycenae, rich in gold. Narrator. So spake they. And the horseman, Nestor of Gerenia, shook the helmet, and forth therefrom leapt the lot that themselves desired, even the lot of Aias. And the herald bare it everywhither throughout the throng, and showed it from left to right to all the chieftains of the Achaeans, but they knew it not, and denied it every man. But when in bearing it everywhither throughout the throng, he was come to him that had marked it and cast it into the helm, even to glorious Aias. Then Aias held forth his hand, and the herald drew near and laid the lot therein, and Aias knew at a glance the token on the lot, and waxed glad at heart. The lot then he cast upon the ground beside his foot, and spake, Aias, my friends, of a surety the lot is mine, and mine own heart rejoiceth, for I deem that I shall vanquish goodly Hector. But come now, while I am doing on me my battle gear, make ye prayer the while to King Zeus, son of Cronos, in silence by yourselves, that the Trojans learn naught thereof, nay, or openly if ye will, since in any case we fear no man. For by force shall no man drive me in flight of his own will, and in despite of mine, nor yet by skill. Since, as no skilless wight methinks was I born and reared in Salamis. Narrator. So spake he, and they made prayer to King Zeus, son of Cronos, and thus would one speak with a glance up to the broad heaven. Father Zeus, that rulest from Ida, most glorious, most great, vouchsafe victory to Aias, and that he win him glorious renown. Or if so be thou lovest Hector too, and carest for him, vouchsafe to both equal might and glory. Narrator. So they spake, and Aias arrayed him in gleaming bronze. But when he had clothed about his flesh all his armour, then sped he in such wise as huge Ares goeth forth when he enters into battle amid warriors whom the son of Cronos hath brought together to contend in the fury of soul-devouring strife. Even in such wise sprang forth huge Aias, the bulwark of the Achaeans, with a smile on his grim face, and he went with long strides of his feet beneath him, brandishing his far-shadowing spear. Then were the Argives glad as they looked upon him, but upon the Trojans crept dread, trembling on the limbs of every man, and Hector's own heart beat fast within his breast. Howbeit in no wise could he any more flee or shrink back into the throng of the host, seeing he had made challenge to fight. So Aias drew near, bearing his shield that was like a city wall, a shield of bronze with sevenfold bull's hide, the which Tychius had wrought with toil, he that was far best of workers in hide, having his home in Hyle, who had made him his flashing shield of 7 hides of sturdy bulls, and thereover had wrought an 8th layer of bronze. This Telamonian Aias bare before his breast, and he came and stood close by Hector, and spake threatening, Aias, Hector, now verily shalt thou know of a surety, man to man, what manner of chieftains there be likewise among the Danans, even after Achilles, breaker of the ranks of men, the lion-hearted. Howbeit he abideth amid his beaked seafaring ships in utter wrath against Agamemnon, Atreus' son, shepherd of the host. Yet are we such as to face thee, yea, full many of us. But begin thou war and battle. Hector. Aias sprung from Zeus, Thou son of Telamon, captain of the host, in no wise make thou trial of me as of some puny boy or a woman that knoweth not deeds of war. Nay, full well know I battles and slayings of men. I know well how to wield to right, and well how to wield to left my shield of seasoned hide, which I deem a sturdy thing to wield in fight. And I know how to charge into the melee of chariots drawn by swift mares. And I know how in close fight to tread the measure of furious Ares. Yet am I not minded to smite thee, being such a one as thou art, by spying thee at unawares, but rather openly, if so be I may hit thee. Narrator. He spake, and poised his far-shadowing spear, and hurled it, and he smote AIA's dread shield of sevenfold bull's hide upon the outermost bronze, the eighth layer that was thereon. Through six folds shore the stubborn bronze, but in the seventh hide it was stayed. Then in turn Zeus-born AIAs hurled his far-shadowing spear, and smote upon the son of Priam's shield that was well balanced upon every side. Through the bright shield went the mighty spear, and through the corslet, richly dight, did it force its way, and straight on beside his flank the spear shore through his tunic. But he bent aside and escaped black fate. Then the twain both at one moment drew forth with their hands their long spears, and fell to in semblance like ravening lions or wild boars, whose is no weakling strength. Narrator. Then the son of Priam smote full upon the shield of AIAs with a thrust of his spear, howbeit the bronze brake not through, for its point was turned. But AIAs leapt upon him and pierced his buckler, and clean through went the spear, and made him reel in his onset. Even to his neck it made its way, and gashed it, and the dark blood welled up. Yet not even so did Hector of the flashing helm cease from fight, but giving ground he seized with stout hand a stone that lay upon the plain, black and jagged and great. Therewith he smote AIA's dread shield of sevenfold bull's hide full upon the boss, and the bronze rang about it. Then AIA's in turn lifted on high a far greater stone, and swung and hurled it, putting into the cast measureless strength. And he burst the buckler inwards with the cast of the rock that was like unto a millstone, and beat down Hector's knees. So he stretched upon his back, gathered together under his shield, howbeit Apollo straightway raised him up. Narrator. And now had they been smiting with their swords in close fight, but that the heralds, messengers of Zeus and men, came, one from the Trojans and one from the brazen-coated Achaeans, even Talthybius and Idaeus, men of prudence both. Between the two they held forth their staves, and the herald Idaeus, skilled in prudent counsel, spake, saying, Idaeus, fight ye no more, dear sons, neither do battle. Both ye twain are loved of Zeus, the cloud-gatherer, and both are spearmen. That verily know we all. Moreover, night is now upon us, and it is well to yield obedience to night's behest. AIAs, Idaeus, bid ye Hector speak these words, for it was he who of himself challenged to combat all our best. Let him be first, and I verily will hearken, even as he shall say. Hector. Aias, seeing God gave thee stature and might, eye and wisdom, and with thy spear thou art preeminent above all the Achaeans, let us now cease from battle and strife for this day. Hereafter shall we fight again until God judge between us and give victory to one side or the other. Howbeit night is now upon us, and it is well to yield obedience to night's behest, that thou mayest make glad all the Achaeans beside their ships, and most of all the kinsfolk and comrades that are thine, and I throughout the great city of King Priam shall make glad the Trojan men and Trojan women with trailing robes, who because of me will enter the gathering of the gods with thanksgivings. But come, let us both give each to the other glorious gifts, to the end that many a one of Achaeans and Trojans alike may thus say, the twain verily fought in rivalry of soul-devouring strife, but thereafter made them a compact, and were parted in friendship. Narrator. When he had thus said, he brought and gave him his silver-studded sword with its scabbard and well-cut baldric, and Aias gave his belt bright with scarlet. So they parted, and one went his way to the host of the Achaeans, and the other betook him to the throng of the Trojans. And these waxed glad when they saw Hector coming to join them alive and whole, escaped from the fury of Aias and his invincible hands, and they brought him to the city, scarce deeming that he was safe. And Aias on his part was led of the well-grieved Achaeans unto goodly Agamemnon, filled with joy of his victory. Narrator. And when they were now come to the huts of the son of Atreus, then did the king of men, Agamemnon slay there a bull, a male of 5 years, for the son of Cronos, supreme in might. This they flayed and dressed, and cut up all the limbs. Then they sliced these cunningly, and spitted them, and roasted them carefully, and drew all off the spits. But when they had ceased from their labour, and had made ready the meal, they feasted, nor did their hearts lack aught of the equal feast. And unto Aias for his honour was the long chine given by the warrior son of Atreus, wide-ruling Agamemnon. But when they had put from them the desire of food and drink, first of all the old man began to weave the web of counsel for them, even Nestor, whose reed had of old ever seemed the best. He with good intent addressed their gathering, and spake among them. Nestor, son of Atreus, and ye other princes of the hosts of Achaea, lo, full many long-haired Achaeans are dead, whose dark blood keen Ares hath now spilt about fair flowing Scamander, and their souls have gone down to the house of Hades. Therefore were it well that thou make the battle of the Achaeans to cease at daybreak, and we will gather to hale hither on carts the corpses with oxen and mules, and we will burn them a little way from the ships, that each man may bear their bones home to their children, whenso we return again to our native land. And about the pyre let us heap a single barrow, rearing it from the plain for all alike, and thereby build with speed a lofty wall, a defence for our ships and for ourselves. And therein let us build gates close fastening, that through them may be a way for the driving of chariots. And without let us dig a deep ditch hard by, which shall intervene and keep back chariots and footmen, lest ever the battle of the lordly Trojans press heavily upon us. Narrator. So spake he, and all the kings assented thereto. And of the Trojans likewise was a gathering held in the citadel of Ilios, a gathering fierce and tumultuous, beside Priam's doors. Among them wise Antenor was first to speak, saying, Antenor, hearken to me, ye Trojans and Dardanians and allies, that I may speak what the heart in my breast biddeth me. Come ye now, let us give Argive Helen and the treasure with her unto the sons of Atreus to take away. Now do we fight, after proving false to our oaths of faith. Wherefore have I no hope that aught will issue to our profit, if we do not thus. Narrator. When he had thus spoken, he sat him down, and among them uprose goodly Alexander, lord of fair-haired Helen. He made answer, and spake to him winged words. Alexander. Antenor, this that thou sayest is no longer to my pleasure. Yea, thou knowest how to devise better words than these. But if thou verily speakest this in earnest, then of a surety have the gods themselves destroyed thy wits. Howbeit, I will speak amid the gathering of horse-taming Trojans, and declare outright, my wife will I not give back, but the treasure that I brought from Argos to our home, all this am I minded to give, and to add thereto from mine own store. Narrator. When he had thus spoken, he sat him down, and among them uprose Priam, son of Dardanus, peer of the gods in council. He with good intent addressed their gathering, and spake among them. Priam, hearken to me, ye Trojans and Dardanians and allies, that I may say what the heart in my breast biddeth me. For this present take ye your supper throughout the city, even as of old, and take heed to keep watch, and be wakeful every man. And at dawn let Idaeus go to the hollow ships to declare to Atreus his sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus, the word of Alexander, for whose sake strife hath been set afoot. And let him furthermore declare to them this word of wisdom, whether they are minded to cease from dolorous war till we have burned the dead. Thereafter shall we fight again until God judge between us, and give victory to one side or the other. Narrator. So spake he, and they readily hearkened to him, and obeyed. Then they took their supper throughout the host by companies, and at dawn Idaeus went his way to the hollow ships. There he found in the place of gathering the Danaans, squires of Ares, beside the stern of Agamemnon's ship. And the loud-voiced herald took his stand in the midst, and spake among them. Idaeus, son of Atreus, and ye other princes of the hosts of Achaea, Priam and the other lordly Trojans bade me declare to you, if haply it be your wish and your good pleasure, the saying of Alexander, for whose sake strife hath been set afoot. The treasure that Alexander brought to Troy in his hollow ships, would that he had perished first. All this he is minded to give, and to add thereto from his own store. But the wedded wife of glorious Menelaus he declares he will not give, though verily the Trojans bid him do it. Moreover, they bade me declare unto you this word also, whether ye be minded to cease from dolorous war till we have burned the dead. Thereafter shall we fight again until God judge between us and give victory to one side or the other. Narrator. So spake he, and they all became hushed in silence. But at length there spake among them Diomedes, good at the war-cry. Diomedes. Let no man now accept the treasure from Alexander, nay, nor Helen. Known is it, even to him who hath no wit at all, that now the cords of destruction are made fast upon the Trojans. Narrator. So spake he, and all the sons of the Achaeans shouted aloud, applauding the saying of Diomedes, tamer of horses. Then to Idaeus spake Lord Agamemnon. Agamemnon. Idaeus, verily of thyself thou hearest the word of the Achaeans, how they make answer to thee, and mine own pleasure is even as theirs. But as touching the dead, I in no wise grudge that ye burn them, for to dead corpses should no man grudge, when once they are dead, the speedy consolation of fire. But to our oaths let Zeus be witness, the loud thundering lord of Hera. Narrator. So saying, he lifted up his staff before the face of all the gods, and Idaeus went his way back to sacred Ilios. Now they were sitting in assembly, Trojans and Dardanians alike, all gathered in one body, waiting until Idaeus should come. And he came and stood in their midst and declared his message. Then they made them ready with all speed for either task, some to bring the dead, and others to seek for wood. And the Argives over against them hasted from the benched ships, some to bring the dead, and others to seek for wood. Narrator. The sun was now just striking on the fields, as he rose from softly gliding, deep-flowing Oceanus, and climbed the heavens when the two hosts met together. Then was it a hard task to know each man again. Howbeit with water they washed from them the clotted blood, and lifted them upon the wagons, shedding hot tears the while. But great Priam would not suffer his folk to wail aloud. So in silence they heaped the corpses upon the pyre, their hearts sore stricken. And when they had burned them with fire, they went their way to sacred Ilios. And in like manner, over against them, the well-grieved Achaeans heaped the corpses upon the pyre, their hearts sore stricken, and when they had burned them with fire, they went their way to the hollow ships. Narrator. Now when dawn was not yet, but night was still twixt light and dark, then was there gathered about the pyre the chosen host of the Achaeans, and they made about it a single barrow, rearing it from the plain for all alike. And thereby they built a wall and a lofty rampart, a defence for their ships and for themselves. And therein they made gates, close fastening, that through them might be a way for the driving of chariots. And without they dug a deep ditch hard by, wide and great, and therein they planted stakes. Thus were they toiling, the long-haired Achaeans, and the gods, as they sat by the side of Zeus, the lord of the lightning, marvelled at the great work of the brazen-coated Achaeans. And among them Poseidon, the shaker of earth, was first to speak. Poseidon. Father Zeus, is there now any one of mortals on the face of the boundless earth that will any more declare to the immortals his mind and counsel? Seest thou not that now again the long-haired Achaeans have builded them a wall to defend their ships, and about it have drawn a trench, but gave not glorious hecatombs to the gods? Of a surety shall the fame thereof reach as far as the dawn spreadeth, and men will forget the wall that I and Phoebus Apollo built with toil for the warrior Laomedon. Zeus. Ah me, thou shaker of earth, wide of sway, what a thing thou hast said! Another of the gods might haply fear this device, whoso was feebler far than thou in hand and might, whereas thy fame shall of a surety reach as far as the dawn spreadeth. Go to now, when once the long-haired Achaeans have gone with their ships to their dear native land, then do thou burst apart the wall and sweep it all into the sea, and cover the great beach again with sand, that so the great wall of the Achaeans may be brought to naught of thee. Narrator. On this wise spake they, one to the other, and the sun set, and the work of the Achaeans was accomplished. And they slaughtered oxen throughout the huts, and took supper. And ships full, many were at hand from Lemnos, bearing wine, sent forth by Jason's son, Euneus, whom Hypsipyle bare to Jason, shepherd of the host. And for themselves alone unto the sons of Atreus, Agamemnon, and Menelaus, had Euneus given wine to be brought them, even 1,000 measures. From these ships the long-haired Achaeans bought them wine, some for bronze, some for gleaming iron, some for hides, some for whole cattle, and some for slaves. And they made them a rich feast. Narrator. So the whole night through the long-haired Achaeans feasted, and the Trojans likewise in the city and their allies, and all night long Zeus the counsellor devised them evil, thundering in terrible wise. Then pale fear gat hold of them, and they let the wine flow from their cups upon the ground. Neither durst any man drink until he had made a drink offering to the son of Cronos, supreme in might. Then they laid them down and took the gift of sleep. Welcome, listeners, to Book 8 of the Iliad, titled The Folly of the Gods. In this part of Homer's epic, the tides of war shift under the heavy hand of Zeus, who decrees a formidable edict to the assembly of Olympian gods. As the Achaeans and Trojans prepare for another day of fierce combat, the king of gods makes clear his mighty will, altering the course of the battle and testing the resolve of the greatest heroes on both sides. Let us delve into the ancient verses where divine will clashes with mortal valour and fate's scales tip in the winds of Zeus's thunderous commands. Narrator. Now dawn, the saffron-robed, was spreading over the face of all the earth, and Zeus that hurleth the thunderbolt made a gathering of the gods upon the topmost peak of many-ridged Olympus, and himself addressed their gathering, and all the gods gave ear. Zeus, hearken unto me, all ye gods and goddesses, that I may speak what the heart in my breast biddeth me. Let not any goddess nor yet any god essay this thing to thwart my word. But do ye all alike assent thereto, that with all speed I may bring these deeds to pass? Whomsoever I shall mark minded apart from the gods, to go and bear aid either to Trojans or Danaans, smitten in no seemly wise shall he come back to Olympus. Or I shall take and hurl him into murky Tartarus, far, far away, where is the deepest gulf beneath the earth, the gates whereof are of iron and the threshold of bronze, as far beneath Hades as heaven is above earth. Then shall ye know how far the mightiest am I of all gods. Nay, come, make trial, ye gods, that ye all may know. Make ye fast from heaven a chain of gold, and lay ye hold thereof, all ye gods and all goddesses. Yet could ye not drag to earth from out of heaven Zeus the counsellor most high, not though ye laboured sore. But when so I were minded to draw of a ready heart, then with earth itself should I draw you, and with sea withal, and the rope should I thereafter bind about a peak of Olympus, and all those things should hang in space. By so much am I above gods and above men. Narrator. So spake he, and they all became hushed in silence, marvelling at his words, for full masterfully did he address their gathering. But at length there spake among them the goddess, flashing-eyed Athene, Father of us all, thou son of Cronos, high above all lords, well know we of ourselves that thy might is unyielding. Yet even so have we pity for the Danaan spearmen, who now shall perish and fulfil an evil fate. Yet verily will we refrain us from battle, even as thou dost bid. Howbeit counsel will we offer to the Argives, which shall be for their profit, that they perish not all by reason of thy wrath. Zeus. Be of good cheer, Tretogeneia, dear child. In no wise do I speak with full purpose of heart, but am minded to be kindly to thee. Narrator. So saying, he let harness beneath his car his bronze-hooved horses, swift of flight, with flowing manes of gold. And with gold he clad himself about his body, and grasped the well-wrought whip of gold, and stepped upon his car, and touched the horses with the lash to start them. And nothing loath the pair sped onward midway between earth and starry heaven. To Ida he fared, the many-fountained mother of wild beasts, even to Gargarus, where is his domain and his fragrant altar. There did the father of men and gods stay his horses, and loose them from the car, and shed thick mist upon them, and himself sat amid the mountain peaks, exulting in his glory, looking upon the city of the Trojans and the ships of the Achaeans. But the long-haired Achaeans took their meal hastily throughout the huts, and as they rose up therefrom arrayed them in armour, and in like manner the Trojans on their side armed themselves throughout the city. Fewer they were, but even so were they eager to contend in battle through utter need, for their children's sake and their wives. And all the gates were opened, and the host hasted forth, footmen alike and charioteers, and a great din arose. But when they were met together and come into one place, then clashed they their shields and spears, and the fury of bronze-mailed warriors. And the bossed shields closed each with each, and a great din arose. Then were heard alike the sound of groaning and the cry of triumph of the slayers and the slain, and the earth flowed with blood. Narrator. Now as long as it was morn and the sacred day was waxing, so long the missiles of either side struck home, and the folk kept falling. But when the sun had reached mid-heaven, then verily the Father lifted on high his golden scales, and set therein two fates of grievous death, one for the horse-taming Trojans, and one for the brazen-coated Achaeans. Then he grasped the balance by the midst and raised it, and down sank the day of doom of the Achaeans. So the Achaeans' fates settled down upon the bounteous earth, and those of the Trojans were raised aloft toward wide heaven. Narrator. Then himself he thundered aloud from Ida, and sent a blazing flash amid the host of the Achaeans, and at sight thereof they were seized with wonder, and pale fear gat hold of all. Then had neither Idomeneus the heart to abide, nor Agamemnon, nor yet the Iantes twain, squires of Ares. Only Nestor of Gerenia abode, the warder of the Achaeans, and he nowise of his own will, but his horse was sore wounded, seeing goodly Alexander, lord of fair-haired Helen, had smitten him with an arrow upon the crown of the head, where the foremost hairs of horses grow upon the skull, and where is the deadliest spot. So, stung with agony, the horse leapt on high as the arrow sank into his brain, and he threw into confusion horses and car as he writhed upon the bronze. And while the old man sprang forth, and with his sword was cutting away the traces, meanwhile the swift horses of Hector came on through the tumult, bearing a bold charioteer, even Hector. And now would the old man here have lost his life, had not Diomedes, good at the war-cry, been quick to see. And he shouted with a terrible shout, urging on Odysseus, Diomedes, Zeus, born son of Laertes, Odysseus of many wiles, whither fleest thou with thy back turned, like a coward in the throng? Let it not be that as thou fleest, some man plant his spear in thy back. Nay, hold thy ground, that we may thrust back from old Nestor this wild warrior. Narrator. So spake he, howbeit the much-enduring goodly Odysseus heard him not, but hasted by to the hollow ships of the Achaeans. But the son of Tydeus, alone though he was, mingled with the foremost fighters, and took his stand before the horses of the old man Neleus' son, and spake and addressed him with winged words. Diomedes, old sir, of a surety young warriors press thee sore, whereas thy might is broken and grievous old age attends thee, and thy squire is a weakling and thy horses slow. Nay, come, mount upon my car, that thou mayest see of what sort are the horses of Tros, well skilled to course fleetly hither and thither over the plain, whether in pursuit or in flight, even those that once I took from Aeneas, devisers of rout. Thy horses shall our two squires tend, but these twain shall thou and I drive straight against the horse-taming Trojans, that Hector too may know whether my spear also rageth in my hands. Narrator. So spake he, and the horseman Nestor of Gerenia failed not to hearken. So the mares of Nestor were tended by the two squires, valiant Sthenelus and Eurymedon the kindly, and the other twain mounted both upon the car of Diomedes. Nestor took in his hands the shining reins, and touched the horses with the lash, and speedily they drew nigh to Hector. Upon him then, as he charged straight at them, the son of Tydeus made a cast. Him he missed. But his squire that drave the chariot, Enopeus, son of Thebaeus, high of heart, even as he was holding the reins, he smote on the breast beside the nipple. So he fell from out the car, and the swift-footed horses swerved aside thereat, and there his spirit and his strength were undone. Then was the soul of Hector clouded with dread sorrow for his charioteer. Yet left he him to lie there, albeit he sorrowed for his comrade, and sought him a bold charioteer. Nor did his horses twain long lack a master, for straightway he found Iphitus' son, bold Archeptolemus, and made him mount behind his swift-footed horses, and gave the reins into his hands. Then had ruin come, and deeds beyond remedy been wrought, and they had been penned in Ilios like lambs, had not the Father of men and gods been quick to see. He thundered terribly, and let fly his white lightning bolt, and down before the horses of Diomedes he hurled it to earth, and a terrible flame arose of burning sulphur, and the two horses, seized with terror, cowered beneath the car. Then from the hands of Nestor slipped the shining reins, and he waxed afraid at heart, and spake to Diomedes, Nestor, son of Tydeus, come now, turn thou in flight thy single-hooved horses. Seest thou not that victory from Zeus waited not on thee? Now to yon man doth Zeus the son of Cronos vouchsafe glory for this day. Hereafter shall he grant it also to us, if so be he will. But a man may in no wise thwart the purpose of Zeus, be he never so valiant, for in sooth he is mightier far. Diomedes, yea, verily, old sir, all this hast thou spoken according to right, but herein dread grief cometh upon my heart and soul, for Hector will some day say, as he speaketh in the gathering of the Trojans, Tydeus' son, driven in flight before me, betook him to the ships. So shall he some day boast. On that day let the wide earth gape for me. Nestor, ah me, thou son of wise-hearted Tydeus, what a thing hast thou said! For though Hector shall call thee coward and weakling, yet will not the Trojans or the Dardanians hearken to him, nor the wives of the great-souled Trojans, bearers of the shield, they whose lusty husbands thou hast hurled in the dust. Narrator, so spake he, and turned in flight his single-hooved horses back through the tumult, and the Trojans and Hector with wondrous shouting poured forth upon them their missiles fraught with groanings. Over him then shouted aloud great Hector of the flashing helm, Hector, son of Tydeus, above all others were the Danaans with swift steeds, wont to honour thee with a seat of honour and meats and full cups, but now will they scorn thee. Thou art, it appeareth, no better than a woman. Begone, cowardly puppet, since through no flinching of mine shalt thou mount upon our walls, and carry away our women in thy ships, ere that will I deal thee thy doom. Narrator, so spake he, and the son of Tydeus was divided in counsel, whether he should not wheel his horses and fight him face to face. Thrice he wavered in heart and soul, and thrice from the mountains of Ida Zeus the counsellor thundered, giving to the Trojans a sign and victory to turn the tide of battle. And Hector shouted aloud and called to the Trojans, Hector, ye Trojans and Lycians and Dardanians that fight in close combat, be men, my friends, and bethink you of furious valour. I perceive that of a ready heart the son of Cronos hath given unto me victory and great glory, and to the Danaans woe. Fools they are, that contrived forsooth these walls, weak and of none account. These shall not withhold our might, and our horses shall lightly leap over the digged ditch. But when I be at length come amid the hollow ships, then see ye that consuming fire be not forgotten, that with fire I may burn the ships and furthermore slay the men, even the Argives beside their ships, distraught by reason of the smoke. Hector. Xanthus and thou Podargus, and Ethon and goodly Lampus, now pay me back your tending wherewith in abundance, Andromache, daughter of great-hearted Aetion, set before you honey-hearted wheat, and mingled wine for you to drink when your souls bade you, sooner than for me, that avow me to be her stalwart husband. Nay, haste ye in pursuit, that we may take the shield of Nestor, the fame whereof now reacheth unto heaven, that it is all of gold, the rods alike and the shield itself, and may take moreover from the shoulders of horse-taming Diomedes his breastplate richly dight, which Hephaestus wrought with toil. Could we but take these twain, then might I hope to make the Achaeans this very night embark upon their swift ships. Narrator, so spake he vauntingly, and queenly Hera had indignation thereat. She shook herself on her throne, and made high Olympus to quake, and to the mighty god Poseidon she spake, saying, Hera, ah me, thou shaker of earth, wide of sway, not even hath the heart in thy breast pity of the Danaans that are perishing. Yet in thine honour do they bring to Hellas and Aegae offerings many and gracious, and hitherto thou didst wish them victory. For did we but will, all we that are aiders of the Danaans, to drive back the Trojans, and to withhold Zeus whose voice is borne afar, then in vexation of spirit would he sit alone there upon Ida. Poseidon, Hera, reckless in speech, what a word hast thou spoken? It is not I that were fain to see us all at strife with Zeus, son of Cronos, for he verily is mightier far. Narrator. On this wise spake they one to the other, and now was all the space that the moat of the wall enclosed on the side of the ships, filled alike with chariots and shield-bearing men huddled together, and huddled they were by Hector, Priam's son, the peer of swift Ares, now that Zeus vouchsafed him glory. And now would he have burned the shapely ships with blazing fire? Had not queenly Hera put it in Agamemnon's mind himself to bestir him and speedily rouse on the Achaeans? So he went his way along the huts and ships of the Achaeans, bearing his great purple cloak in his stout hand, and took his stand by Odysseus's black ship, huge of hull, that was in the midst, so that a shout could reach to either end, both to the huts of Aias, son of Telamon, and to those of Achilles. For these had drawn up their shapely ships at the furthermost ends, trusting in their valour and in the strength of their hands. There uttered he a piercing shout, calling aloud to the Danans, Agamemnon, fie, ye Argives, base things of shame, fair in semblance only. Whither are gone our boastings, when forsooth we declared that we were bravest? The boasts that when ye were in Lemnos ye uttered vaingloriously, as ye ate abundant flesh of straight-horned kine, and drank bowls brimful of wine, saying that each man would stand to face in battle 100, aye, 200 Trojans. Whereas now can we match not even one, this Hector, that soon will burn our ships with blazing fire. Father Zeus, was there ever ere now one among mighty kings whose soul thou didst blind with blindness such as this, and rob him of great glory? Yet of a surety do I deem that never in my benched ship did I pass by fair altar of thine on my ill-starred way hither, but upon all I burned the fat and the thighs of bulls, in my eagerness to lay waste well-walled Troy. Nay, Zeus, this desire fulfil thou me. Ourselves at least do thou suffer to flee and escape, and permit not the Achaeans thus to be vanquished by the Trojans. Narrator. So spake he, and the father had pity on him as he wept, and vouchsafed him that his folk should be saved and not perish. Forthwith he sent an eagle, surest of omens among winged birds, holding in his talons a fawn, the young of a swift hind. Beside the fair altar of Zeus he let fall the fawn, even where the Achaeans were wont to offer sacrifice to Zeus, from whom all omens come. So they, when they saw that it was from Zeus that the bird was come, leapt the more upon the Trojans, and bethought them of battle. Then might no man of the Danaans, for all they were so many, vaunt that he before the son of Tydeus guided his swift horses to drive them forth across the trench and to fight man to man. Nay, he was first by far to slay a mailed warrior of the Trojans, even Agelaus, Phradron's son. He in sooth had turned his horses to flee, but as he wheeled about, Diomedes fixed his spear in his back between the shoulders and drave it through his breast. So he fell from out the car, and upon him his armour clanged. And after him came the sons of Atreus, Agamemnon and Menelaus, and after them the Iantes clothed in furious valour, and after them Idomeneus and Idomeneus' comrade Meriones, peer of Enyalius, slayer of men, and after them Eurypylus, the glorious son of Euaemon. And Teucer came as the ninth, stretching his back-bent bow, and took his stand beneath the shield of Aias, son of Telamon. Then would Aias move his shield aside from over him, and the warrior would spy his chance. And when he had shot his bolt and had smitten one in the throng, then would that man fall where he was and give up his life, and Teucer would hie him back, and as a child beneath his mother, so betake him for shelter to Aias, and Aias would ever hide him with his shining shield. Whom first then of the Trojans did peerless Teucer slay? Orsilochus first, and Ormenus, and Ophelestes, and Daetor, and Chromius, and godlike Lycophontes, and Ermopion, Polyaemon's son, and Melanippus. All these, one after another, he brought down to the bounteous earth. And at sight of him Agamemnon, king of men, waxed glad, as with his mighty bow he made havoc of the battalions of the Trojans, and he came and stood by his side and spake to him, saying, Agamemnon, Teucer, beloved, son of Telamon, captain of hosts, shoot on in this wise, if so be thou mayest prove a light of deliverance to the Danaans, and a glory to thy father Telamon, who reared thee when thou wast a babe, and for all thou wast a bastard, cherished thee in his own house. Him, far away though he be, do thou bring to honour. Moreover, I will declare to thee, as it verily shall be brought to pass. If Zeus that beareth the aegis, and Athene shall vouchsafe me to lay waste the well-built citadel of Ilios, in thy hand first, after mine own self, will I place a meed of honour, either a tripod or 2 horses with their car, or a woman that shall go up into thy bed, Teucer. Most glorious son of Atreus, why urgest thou me on? That of myself am eager, Verily I forbear not so far as might is in me, but from the time when we drave them toward Ilios, even from that moment I lie in wait with my bow and slay the men. 8 long barbed arrows have I now let fly, and all are lodged in the flesh of youths swift in battle. Only this mad dog can I not smite. Narrator. He spake, and shot another arrow from the string straight against Hector, and his heart was fain to smite him. Howbeit him he missed, but peerless Gorgythian he smote in the breast with his arrow, Priam's valiant son, that a mother wedded from Asyme had borne, even fair Castianera, in form like to the goddesses. And he bowed his head to one side like a poppy that in a garden is laden with its fruit and the rains of spring. So bowed he to one side his head, laden with his helmet. And Teucer shot another arrow from the string straight against Hector, and his heart was fain to smite him. Howbeit he missed him once again, for Apollo made his dart to swerve. But Archeptolemus, the bold charioteer of Hector, as he hasted into battle, he smote on the breast beside the nipple. So he fell from out the car, and the swift-footed horses swerved aside thereat, and there his spirit and his strength were undone. Then was the soul of Hector clouded with dread sorrow for his charioteer. Yet left he him to lie there, though he sorrowed for his comrade, and bade Cebriones, his own brother, that was nigh at hand, take the reins of the horses, and he heard and failed not to hearken. And himself, Hector, leapt to the ground from his gleaming car, crying a terrible cry, and seizing a stone in his hand, made right at Teucer, and his heart bade him smite him. Now Teucer had drawn forth from the quiver a bitter arrow, and laid it upon the string, but even as he was drawing it back, Hector of the flashing helm smote him beside the shoulder, where the collarbone parts the neck and the breast, where is the deadliest spot. Even there, as he aimed eagerly against him, he smote him with the jagged stone, and he brake the bowstring, but his hand grew numb at the wrist, and he sank upon his knees and thus abode, and the bow fell from his hand. Howbeit Aias was not unmindful of his brother's fall, but ran and bestrode him and flung before him his shield as a cover. Then 2 trusty comrades stooped beneath him, even Mecistius, son of Echius, and goodly Alastor, and bare him, groaning heavily, to the hollow ships. Then once again the Olympian aroused might in the hearts of the Trojans, and they thrust the Achaeans straight toward the deep ditch. And amid the foremost went Hector exulting in his might. And even as a hound pursueth with swift feet after a wild boar or lion, and snatcheth at him from behind, either at flank or buttock, and watcheth for him as he wheeleth, even so Hector pressed upon the long-haired Achaeans, ever slaying the hindmost, and they were driven in rout. But when in their flight they had passed through stakes and trench, and many had been vanquished beneath the hands of the Trojans, then beside their ships they halted and abode, calling one upon the other, and lifting up their hands to all the gods, they made fervent prayer, each man of them. But Hector wheeled this way and that, his fair-maned horses, and his eyes were as the eyes of the Gorgon or of Ares, bane of mortals. Now at sight of them the goddess, white-armed Hera, had pity, and forthwith spake winged words to Athene, Hera, out upon it, thou child of Zeus that beareth the aegis, shall not we twain any more take thought of the Danaans that are perishing, even for this last time? Now will they fill up the measure of evil doom, and perish before the onset of one single man, even of Hector, Priam's son, who now rageth past all bearing, and lo, hath wrought evils manifold? Athene. Yea, verily fain were I that this fellow lose strength and life, slain beneath the hands of the Argives in his own native land. Howbeit mine own father rageth with evil mind, cruel that he is, ever froward, a thwarter of my purposes. Neither hath he any memory of this, that full often I saved his son when he was fordone by reason of Eurystheus' tasks. For verily he would make lament toward heaven, and from heaven would Zeus send me forth to succour him. Had I but known all this in wisdom of my heart, when Eurystheus sent him forth to the house of Hades the warder, to bring from out of Erebus the hound of loathed Hades, then had he not escaped the sheer falling waters of Styx. Howbeit now Zeus hateth me, and hath brought to fulfilment the counsels of Thetis, that kissed his knees, and with her hand clasped his chin, beseeching him to show honour to Achilles, sacker of cities. Verily the day shall come when he shall again call me his flashing-eyed darling. But now make thou ready for us twain our single-hooved horses, the while I enter into the palace of Zeus, that beareth the aegis, and array me in armour for battle. to the end that I may see whether Priam's son, Hector of the flashing helm, will rejoice when we twain appear to view along the dykes of battle. Nay, of a surety, many a one of the Trojans shall glut the dogs and birds with his fat and flesh, when he is fallen at the ships of the Achaeans. Narrator. So spake she, and the goddess white-armed Hera failed not to hearken. She then went to and fro, harnessing the horses of golden frontlets, even Hera, the queenly goddess, daughter of great Cronos, but Athene, daughter of Zeus that beareth the aegis, let fall upon her father's floor her soft robe, richly broidered, that herself had wrought, and her hands had fashioned, and put on her the tunic of Zeus the cloud-gatherer, and arrayed her in armour for tearful war. Then she stepped upon the flaming car, and grasped her spear, heavy and huge and strong, wherewith she vanquisheth the ranks of men of warriors with whom she is wroth, she the daughter of the mighty sire. And Hera swiftly touched the horses with the lash, and self-bidden groaned upon their hinges the gates of heaven, which the hours had in their keeping, to whom are entrusted great heaven and Olympus, whether to throw open the thick cloud or shut it to. There through the gate they drave their horses, patient of the goad. But when Father Zeus saw them from Ida, he waxed wondrous wroth, and sent forth golden-winged Iris to bear a message. Iris, up go, swift Iris, turn them back and suffer them not to come face to face with me, seeing it will be in no happy wise that we shall join in combat. For thus will I speak, and verily this thing shall be brought to pass. I will maim their swift horses beneath the chariot, and themselves will I hurl from out the car, and will break in pieces the chariot. Nor in the space of 10 circling years shall they heal them of the wounds wherewith the thunderbolt shall smite them, that she of the flashing eyes may know what it is to strive against her own father. But against Hera have I not so great indignation nor wrath, seeing she is ever wont to thwart me in whatsoe'er I have decreed. Narrator. So spake he, and storm-footed Iris hasted to bear his message, and went forth from the mountains of Ida to high Olympus. And even at the entering in of the gate of many-folded Olympus, she met them and stayed them, and declared to them the saying of Zeus, Iris, whither are ye twain hastening? Why is it that the hearts are mad within your breasts? The son of Cronos suffereth not that ye give succour to the Argives, for on this wise he threateneth, even as he will bring it to pass. He will maim your swift horses beneath your chariot, and yourselves will he hurl from out the car, and will break in pieces the chariot. Nor in the space of 10 circling years shall ye heal you of the wounds, wherewith the thunderbolt shall smite you, that thou mayest know, thou of the flashing eyes, what it is to strive against thine own father. But against Hera hath he not so great indignation nor wrath, seeing she is ever wont to thwart him in whatsoe'er he hath decreed. But most dread art thou, thou bold and shameless thing, if in good sooth thou wilt dare to raise thy mighty spear against Zeus. Hera. Out upon it, thou child of Zeus that beareth the aegis. I verily will no more suffer that we twain seek to wage war against Zeus for mortal sake. Of them let one perish and another live, even as it may befall, and for him let him take his own counsel in his heart, and judge between Trojans and Danaans as is meet. Narrator. So spake she, and turned back her single-hooved horses. Then the Hours unyoked for them their fair-maned horses, and tethered them at their ambrosial mangers, and leaned the chariot against the bright entrance wall, and the goddesses sate them down upon golden thrones, amid the other gods, with sore grief at heart. But Father Zeus drave from Ida his well-wheeled chariot and his horses unto Olympus, and came to the session of the gods. And for him the famed shaker of earth both unyoked his horses and set the car upon a stand, and spread thereover a cloth. And Zeus, whose voice is borne afar, himself sat upon his throne of gold, and beneath his feet great Olympus quaked. Only Athene and Hera sat apart from Zeus, and spake no word to him nor made question, but he knew in his heart and spake, saying, Zeus, why are ye thus grieved, Athene and Hera? Surely ye twain be not grown weary with making havoc of the Trojans in battle, wherein men win glory, seeing ye cherish against them wondrous hate. Come what will, seeing I have such might and hands irresistible, all the gods that are in Olympus could not turn me. And for you twain, trembling gat hold of your glorious limbs, or ever ye had sight of war and the grim deeds of war. For thus will I speak, and verily this thing had been brought to pass. Not upon your car. Once ye were smitten by the thunderbolt, would ye have fared back to Olympus? Where is the abode of the immortals? Narrator. So spake he, and thereat murmured Athene and Hera that sat by his side and were devising ills for the Trojans. Athene verily held her peace and said naught. Wroth though she was with Father Zeus, and fierce anger gat hold of her, howbeit Hera's breast contained not her anger, but she spake to him, saying, Hera, most dread son of Cronos, what a word hast thou said? Well know we of ourselves that thine is no weakling strength, yet even so have we pity for the Danaan spearmen who now shall perish and fulfil an evil fate. Yet verily will we refrain us from battle, if so thou biddest. Howbeit counsel will we offer to the Argives, which shall be for their profit, that they perish not all by reason of thy wrath. Zeus. At dawn shalt thou behold, if so be thou wilt, O ox-eyed, queenly Hera, the most mighty son of Cronos, making yet more grievous havoc of the great host of Argive spearmen. For dread Hector shall not refrain him from battle until the swift-footed son of Peleus be uprisen beside his ships on the day when at the sterns of the ships they shall be fighting in grimmest stress about Patroclus fallen. For thus it is ordained of heaven. But of thee I reck not in thine anger. No, not though thou shouldst go to the nethermost bounds of earth and sea, where abide Iapetus and Cronos, and have joy neither in the rays of Helios Hyperion nor in any breeze, but deep Tartarus is round about them. Though thou shouldst fare even thither in thy wanderings, yet reck I not of thy wrath, seeing there is naught more shameless than thou. Narrator. So said he, howbeit white-armed Hera spake no word in answer. Then into Oceanus fell the bright light of the sun, drawing black night over the face of the earth, the giver of grain. Sorely against the will of the Trojans sank the daylight. But over the Achaeans' welcome, aye, thrice prayed for, came the darkness of night. Then did glorious Hector make a gathering of the Trojans, leading them apart from the ships beside the eddying river in an open space where the ground showed clear of dead. Forth from their chariots they stepped upon the ground, to hearken to the word that Hector, dear to Zeus, spake among them. In his hand he held a spear of 11 cubits, and before him blazed the spear point of bronze, around which ran a ring of gold. Thereon he leaned and spake his word among the Trojans. Hector, hearken to me, ye Trojans and Dardanians and allies. I deemed but now to make havoc of the ships and all the Achaeans, and so return back again to windy Ilios, but darkness came on ere that might be, the which above all else hath now saved the Argives and their ships upon the beach of the sea. So then, for this present let us yield to black night and make ready our supper. Loose ye from the cars your fair-maned horses, and cast fodder before them. And from the city bring ye oxen and goodly sheep with speed, and get you honey-hearted wine and bread from your houses. And furthermore gather abundant wood, that all night long until early dawn we may burn fires full many, and the gleam thereof may reach to heaven, lest haply even by night the long-haired Achaeans make haste to take flight over the broad back of the sea. Nay, verily, not without a struggle let them board their ships, neither at their ease. But see ye that many a one of them has a missile to brood over even at home, being smitten either with an arrow or sharp-pointed spear as he leapt upon his ship, that so others may dread to bring tearful war against the horse-taming Trojans. And let heralds dear to Zeus make proclamation throughout the city, that stripling boys and old men of hoary temples gather them round the city upon the battlement builded of the gods. And for the women folk, let them build each one a great fire in her halls, and let a diligent watch be kept, lest an ambush enter the city while the host is afield. Thus be it, great-hearted Trojans, even as I proclaim, of counsel good and sound for this present, be this enough. But more will I proclaim at dawn amid the horse-taming Trojans. I pray in high hope to Zeus and the other gods to drive out from hence these dogs borne by the Fates, whom the Fates bear on their black ships. Howbeit for the night will we guard our own selves, but in the morning, at the coming of dawn, arrayed in our armour, let us arouse sharp battle at the hollow ships. I shall know whether the son of Tydeus, mighty Diomedes, will thrust me back from the ships to the wall, or whether I shall slay him with the bronze and bear off his bloody spoils. Tomorrow shall he come to know his valour, whether he can abide the oncoming of my spear. Nay, amid the foremost, methinks, shall he lie smitten with a spear thrust, and full many of his comrades round about him at the rising of tomorrow's sun. I would that mine own self I might be immortal and ageless all my days, and that I might be honoured even as Athene and Apollo, so surely as now this day bringeth evil upon the Argives. Narrator. So Hector addressed their gathering, and thereat the Trojans shouted aloud. Their sweating horses they loosed from beneath the yoke, and tethered them with thongs, each man beside his own chariot. And from the city they brought oxen and goodly sheep with speed, and got them honey-hearted wine and bread from their houses, and furthermore gathered abundant wood. And to the immortals they offered hecatombs that bring fulfilment. And from the plain the winds bore the savour up into heaven, a sweet savour. But thereof the blessed gods partook not, neither were minded thereto. For utterly hated of them was sacred Ilios and Priam, and the people of Priam with goodly spear of ash. These then with high hearts abode the whole night through along the dykes of war, and their fires burned in multitudes. Even as in heaven about the gleaming moon the stars shine clear, when the air is windless, and forth to view appear all mountain peaks and high headlands and glades. And from heaven breaketh open the infinite air, and all stars are seen, and the shepherd joyeth in his heart. Even in such multitudes between the ships and the streams of Xanthus shone the fires that the Trojans kindled before the face of Ilios. 1,000 fires were burning in the plain, and by each sat 50 men in the glow of the blazing fire. And their horses, eating of white barley and spelt, stood beside the cars and waited for fair-throned dawn.